All right, this is going to be very cursed. What is critical race theory by PragerU? This video is pretty new. It premiered on the 26th of April, so pretty new. And if you've ever watched any of my past videos on PragerU, then you guys will know that they are notorious for being outright liars. Oh, holy shit. I'll have to get to that in a minute. I thank you for the $100 donation. I'm literally shitting myself right now. My pants are currently a stew of piss, shit, and cum. However, I got to keep on topic here. Thank you very much. That was very, very poggers. If you've seen any of my past coverage of PragerU, we have gone deep. We have dug very deep into basically every statement made in several PragerU videos, and we've just ripped them apart. PragerU has a tendency to basically just lie to your face under the assumption that you won't take the time to do basic research to fact check what they tell you. If you want, you can actually look it up. There are plenty of entire documents or pages that go over the easily verifiable lies that PragerU tells in their videos. I think the funniest one ever is when they brought in a guy that was the owner of what he claimed to be a small cookie baking business. And the way that he talks about it, he says that it's just like a little mom and pop shop type thing, right? When in reality, people looked up this guy and looked up his company and his factory, and it turns out he had a massive fucking cookie factory and thousands of employees. It's insane. Also, you'll notice that PragerU doesn't cite any of their sources whatsoever. They'll put on vague charts on the screen with no annotations or links you can click on to do further research. A lot of the times, the charts they actually show you or the data they try to represent doesn't have any labels on it or isn't any actual real data. It'll be like, here's why socialism is bad. So when socialism goes up, freedom goes down on this chart here. That's the kind of data they show off in their videos. So they made a video about critical race theory. What is critical race theory? Well, if you actually want to learn what it is, you can just Google it. But the main idea behind critical race theory is it's a form of sociological analysis of human interaction in which we more critically, that's where that comes from, analyze the effects that the socially constructed idea of race has on our society. So, for example, if we look at an issue like incarceration, someone who is well-versed in critical race theory would recognize that there are a combination of factors that lead to non-white people, particularly black people, at least here in America, being overly represented in the prison system. And that's an aspect of critical race theory. However, conservatives have lately been dog whistling and trying to stir the pot and stoke fear like crazy these last few these last year or so when it comes to the critical race theory stuff. I don't know where it's coming from or how this happened, but critical race theory has become like a new boogeyman to conservatives these last 8 to 10 months. So let's go ahead and debunk some of the bullshit they're about to say.
Have you heard about critical race theory?
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing you probably have.
Yep.
It has already insinuated itself into many institutions and is making rapid progress into others. If it takes hold, it will completely change the very nature of America and the way you live.
Yeah.
Critical race theory holds that the most important thing about you is your race.
Bullshit. Hold on. So we're going to debunk this very easily to verify lie in a moment. So the first thing I want to say is PragerU isn't an actual school or university. Every single way in which they present their information and try to teach people does not line up with any reasonable or acceptable way of trying to teach people information. They do not cite sources. They do not, if they try to prove something, they do not engage in the scientific method or represent or try to prove their idea with any data or studies or anything like that. It is purely propaganda. It is meant to push a political narrative. And they do it through lies, easy to verify lies. So our first message we have here is that critical race theory holds that the most important thing about you is your race. This is an extremely... So at worst, this is just an outright lie. At best, this is very dishonest. So someone who's a proponent of critical race theory might say that your race is a significant part of how you may be raised or how you may interact with society due to the way that human culture acknowledges race. Not that the most important thing about you is your race, but that probably one of the most significant factors in your upbringing, most social interactions you'll have throughout your life, as well as your socioeconomic status, is probably going to be your race, which is true. If you're black in this country, you are infinitely more likely to be poor than if you're white. Per capita, it's unfortunate. There are many reasons sociologically why this is true. Everything from the drug war to redlining to the leftover effects of slavery and segregation. There are entire fucking novels worth of information on why black people have it worse in America. And yeah, if you're black here in America, as well as many other places, it's going to be pretty significant to your life because you're going to have to deal with the outcomes of that. And statistically speaking, you're probably going to be poor. And that's the problem that most people who are proponents of critical race theory want to alleviate and even solve.
The color of your skin, that's who you are. Not your behavior, not your values, not your environment. Your race.
Ooh, that's a real sneaky little dog whistle there, by the way. No. The arguments made by people who propagate critical race theory, their main argument is that our environment is what dictates humanity's understanding of race. So even that is just an outright lie. It's called determinism. Do you guys know what determinism is? If you don't, I'll explain it. Determinism is the idea that your environment forms who you are, that no man is an island, that no one is free of the effects of their environment on them. You are a product of your upbringing. Every single individual thing that happened to you throughout your life has led to you becoming the person that you are now. The idea, one of the biggest ideas of critical race theory is that the environment in which, we'll say in America here, in which people are brought up in determines how they're going to interact with society and how society is going to interact with them. Wait, are they actually trying to argue that proponents of critical race theory are race realists? Are you fucking serious? Amazing.
In critical race theory, if you are a member of a minoritized racial group, their term, not mine, you are a victim of a system that is rigged against you, a system that doesn't want you to succeed.
True.
On the other hand, if your race is privileged...
This is actually... Wait, no. Not true, actually. Not necessarily true. One of the biggest... This is actually a straw man. The talking points of those that propose critical race theory or prop up critical race theory is that the system is indifferent. It is not like some... The system isn't like a cognizant, sentient creature that wants to keep brown people down. It is just the product of policy that is, sort of been formed together over the course of hundreds of years of our country existing. It is just a amalgamation of policies that have led to the current state of things as they are today. No one argues that the system wants to do this. The system just does this, does that, and so on. And we can change that system by changing policies, changing laws. and what have you.
You're an exploiter, whether you intend to be or not. Critical race theory begins from the assumption that racism occurs in all interactions. To see how this works.
So the argument that people that support God, they're such liars. They're very good. This is very good propaganda because so many people have absolutely no clue what critical race theory is. To be fair, I had to do quite a bit of research on this to learn anything about it, to be able to debunk this video. Most people have no clue what critical race theory is. This video will be their first introduction to the idea of critical race theory. So it's very effective propaganda because you literally don't have to debunk any of the talking points of those that propose and support critical race theory because they've never heard the counter arguments. So you can just lie to them about what people who support critical race theory believe. It's wild. It's a perfect topic for PragerU to cover. I'm really curious who this guy is actually. We'll find out at the end of the video. I'm going to bet this guy has like a really shady past. Every single person that PragerU brings on to talk almost always has like a really shady past, and they always tell you the name of the person and their qualifications at the end of the video, and then we research it. And I wish I'd done it at the beginning because it's always something fucking awful. Wait, what is this? Grievance studies hoax? What is that? Mystery. He looks like he's held at gunpoint. Yeah, he looks afraid. He looks like he's got fear in his eyes. He looks like he's staring death, like, straight down the barrel.
Works. Consider this thought experiment. Imagine you own a shop and two customers enter at the same time, one white and one black. Who do you help first? If you help the black person first, critical race theory would say you did so because you don't trust black people to be left alone in your store. That's racist. If you help the white person first instead, critical race theory would say you did so because you think blacks are second-class citizens. That's racist too.
Holy shit. So, this is a perfect example of good propaganda. Rather than bringing up data or studies like people who support critical race theory do or sociologists do, instead of doing that, instead of actually going into data and looking at reality, instead you dream up an extremely oversimplified hypothetical and use it. That doesn't happen. Something that didn't actually happen, something that's not real. It's a hypothetical, and use that to try to prove a straw man about the opposing idea. Really, really neat. Really, really neat propaganda technique on the part of PragerU, but they know what they're doing. They're very good at this. So, someone who supports critical... To try to form this hypothetical that we just saw into something even remotely relevant, I'm going to try to explain how this could possibly apply to critical race theory, okay? So, a proponent of critical race theory would say, if you have two people that walk into a store and you can help out only one of them first, if you help out the white person or the black person, that on its own is not racist or anti-racist, necessarily. Your motivations in doing it, on the other hand, are what would determine that. So, for example, if you help the white person because you don't feel comfortable around black people and you don't want them around, then that would be racist. Same goes for vice versa. If you were like, ooh, I don't want to seem racist, so I'm going to help the black person instead of the white person because I want to overcompensate and not seem racist, that would also be racist. And then obviously if we flip all this around, if you help the black person because you think black people need help, that's pretty racist because you think they can't go to the grocery store and collect their groceries on their own. I mean, that would be pretty racist, right? Or alternatively, if you don't like white people, that would also be racist. So yeah, pretty simple there. Pretty simple. Hey, we got a Nazi in Twitch chat if someone wants to take care of it.
That's critical race theory. It can find racism in anything, even if it has to read your mind to do it.
Damn.
Critical race theory is a uniquely American invention. brewed up at Harvard Law School in the
Damn, you know what else is made up? Here, let's talk about some stuff that's completely made up. Depression, PTSD, amnesia. List basically any mental health issue. Totally made up. It's all in your head. You have to read someone's mind. They have it, guys. There you go. Yeah, so that is the logical equivalent of what PragerU is trying to argue there. What the fuck are you talking about? Just because something is in someone's head doesn't mean it's not real. Hey, do you have any idea how anything works? Well, they know. They know. To be fair, sorry, my rhetoric is a little dishonest here because I know they know. We all know they know. They're just lying. This is propaganda. I am kind of acting as though I'm like teaching them this when in reality they know this and they're just lying.
70s, now part of the academic and media mainstream, it is also uniquely un-American because it rejects the core tenets of the American classically liberal Judeo-Christian value system.
Holy shit. Could you fucking... That was a literal cake. Both physically...
The core tenets of the American classically liberal Judeo-Christian value system.
This is like a cake of buzzwords. This is a buzzword cake. Here's the cherry on top. Here's like the first layer of white frosting. Below that, you've got like some blue frosting or blue filling. In the middle here, we've got like, I don't know, this could be like caramel. Like that's sort of a caramel color. And then on the bottom, we've got a little bit more white frosting on this utter buzzword cake. Okay. So for starters, academia doesn't stay still and unchanged for long periods of time. Do you guys know what the scientific method is? Or even what the idea of science and knowledge is? I'm pretty sure almost the word for word definition of knowledge is the constantly changing field of information that we have, essentially. As we do different things, as we learn new things, our field of knowledge changes. This applies just as well to the idea of academics. Academics changes all the time as we learn new things, technology improves and advances and what have you, and we discover new ways to observe the world around us. Why do conservatives think that saying that a academic field is new or a way of observing the world in an academic field is new? Why do they think that's an argument against it? Well, the reason for that is because conservatives are, and always have been, very anti-science. Conservatives' number one enemy has been and will always be science.
It turns the bedrock American idea upside down.
Nice.
Here it is in the words of Richard Delgado and Gene Stefanczyk, two leading proponents.
Nice.
Critical race theory questions the very foundations of the liberal order, including equality theory, legal reasoning, Enlightenment rationalism, and the neutral principles of constitutional law.
Why is that bad?
It does this because critical race theory proponents assume racism is present everywhere and always.
Holy shit. What? Is the Prager vid kind of laggy? Not for me. Wait, do they not know what any of this means? Wait, what the fuck does this have to do with... What? Does PragerU not know what this quote means? Critical race theory questions the very foundations of the liberal order, including equality theory, legal reasoning, Enlightenment rationalism, and the neutral principles of constitutional law. Do I need to deep dive into this to explain what all this means? Chat, do I need to deep dive into this to explain what this means? Is it really necessary? PragerU's not a real university. It's a propaganda network. It'll be fun? Okay. Whew. Critical race theory questions the very foundations. I'm going to stop right there for starters and say, imagine conservatives who constantly, like a bunch of little red frogs, about how they're free thinkers who won't fall into the liberal mind control machine, getting upset about questioning popular ideas. Kind of makes you think that maybe they have an alternative motive behind their dislike of critical race theory, huh? A way of thinking that is meant to question how we're taught to think in our society, you know? So-called free thinkers when the word critical race theory comes up, and it's the army of robots from iRobot. Let's continue. The very foundations of the liberal order. Now, I don't know this exact quote. PragerU has a tendency to, not leave a link to any of their sources, so it's very hard to go out of your way to fact check them. Sometimes they'll add like a little citation like this down here, but you'll never find this. If you try looking for this, you're going to have a very hard time finding it because you have to type this out and search for it. They don't put their links in the description most of the time. I've never seen a PragerU video where all of their sources and links were in the description. Not once. Anyway, the liberal order, if I were to assume, probably means like basic ideas of liberalism, such as capitalism, electoralism, general equality, and what have you. Some of the more basic ideas that America is built on, right? That's fine, right? But questioning that and examining it, unbiased, as much as we may like these ideas, is okay. Including equality theory. I actually don't know what equality theory is. I'm curious what that is. We can look it up right now. What is equality theory? Equality theory focuses on determining whether the distribution of resources is fair to both relational partners. Equity is measured by comparing the ratio of contributions and benefits for each person. Oh, okay. So it's the sort of tug of war between equality theory and equity theory. Okay, that makes way more sense. Okay, so the idea of equity is that everybody has equal outcomes, while equality is everyone has equal opportunity. And the idea is it's sort of a constant running debate between should we strive for a society in which everybody has equal outcomes, so everybody is at the same level, everybody, no matter who they are, is happy and is at the same level, or should we strive for a society in which everyone has the same opportunity to achieve things, but depending on how much effort they put in, then that's going to limit the level they can reach. But everybody has the same amount of opportunity. Now, of course, in our society today, we do not live in a meritocracy, meaning we do not live in a society in which everyone has equal opportunity. Anyone who knows anything about sociology or the way the world works, or is above the age of 15 years old, knows we do not live in an actual meritocracy. These are the ideas that critical race theory challenges, or at least encourages people to question. Legal reasoning, I would presume this has to do with the idea that the law determines morality. That's what that sort of makes me think right now, that your morals or your decision-making should be determined by, well, the law says this, Enlightenment rationalism. So it's basically the idea of, okay, so the Enlightenment brought about a lot of new ideas, a lot of new philosophical beliefs and what have you, especially social beliefs. However, these are ideas that basically came around like 100 years ago or some shit. The Enlightenment was a while ago, chat. I guess the idea is to challenge these ideas and see if they can be advanced to their naturally expected evolution. 300 to 400 years ago? God damn, I was off by 300 years, roughly. And the neutral principles of constitutional law. Nice.
Law.
Sounds scary.
It does this because critical race theory proponents assume racism is present everywhere and always, and they look for it.
So, What about anything that we just defined there had anything to do with the idea that racism is present everywhere and always? One of the main ideas proposed by critical race theory is that racism isn't natural, it's taught, and that racism can be made extinct one day. How can a group of people believe simultaneously that racism is a social construct that can be done away with if, people are taught that it's wrong and are work on getting rid of that, while also thinking that racism is present everywhere and always and will always be? What do you how do you realize that those ideas don't really work together, even in your propaganda?
And they look for it critically until they find it.
So that's the thing that they're going to try to push. That these academics with their critical race theory, they put on their glasses and they go, oh, I need to find racism everywhere that I look. Oh, I gotta find the racism. Oh, I'm looking very critically for that racism. Come on, dude. Come on. Listen, it should be made very apparent right off the bat here, 2 minutes in, how anti-academic and how anti-fact this is. This is blatant propaganda. It should be obvious to anyone who has more than 2 brain cells to rub together. Hey. That's pretty good.
And they always find it. It has to be there because that's how the imperial European powers and then America set things up. Here, as in all dangerous academic theory...
Yeah. Do you know anything about history? Do you know anything about history, dude? I'm sorry. You know slavery built this country, right? The transatlantic slave trade? You know all that? How many southern do you not know how our economy worked back in the day during the time of the colonies? The Europeans traded weapons and other materials for slaves, which they then took across the sea to America, to the colonies, and those slaves worked on plantations in the South to harvest raw materials that were used in the North to produce products that we then sold to bolster our economy and build our entire country on top of? Are you aware of what Britain did? Basically its entire history? What are you fucking talking about? Yes, every massive imperial country has thrived off of racism. Yeah, no shit. Learn some history. Crack open a 5th grade history textbook and read the first 10 pages. And maybe you'll start to get it. And then maybe you can advance a little further and learn some of the more nuanced parts of it, okay? Maybe you can upgrade there one day.
There is a kernel of truth. Human beings were not preoccupied with race until the 16th century, when Europeans began to explore and then colonize other parts of the world.
True.
Drawing distinctions between the race...
To be fair, so here's the thing. There has always been discrimination among different groups of humans for as long as recorded history exists. However, the idea of race as we view it today is surprisingly new. Most of what we would consider like racism that happened way back in the day is what we would now call xenophobia, right? Like, for example, I got really interested in this because I was playing through Assassin's Creed Valhalla recently. So I ended up doing some research on the dynamic between the Anglo-Saxon people in the UK and the Danish people from up north, from like Norse countries, when they came down to colonize, England. It was very, very interesting how much racism was hurled back and forth at each other back in the day there. And if you looked at these people, they both had white skin, you know, for the most part. They typically, like the Norse folk usually had like blonder or lighter hair, but besides that, they were, nowadays, if you looked at both of them, they would be white as fuck. White as fuck. There are plenty of societies in which, like, groups of people with multiple skin colors even coexisted, and there was no racism for the most part among those groups. It was mostly based on whether or not you were, for example, a Roman or a savage. That was a big thing back in the day. The way that we view race today, as it's mostly described based on skin color, is a very new idea and very socially constructed, just like every form of racism and, I guess, xenophobia that's existed in the past.
Races reached its peak in the 19th century with the widespread use of slave labor in North and South America. No one denies this. But since then,
Are you sure about that, PragerU, considering that you've literally made a video about whether or not slavery was a bad thing, and about how you tried to argue that the most famous general of the Confederacy, which, by the way, was very open about the fact that they were fighting the Civil War to preserve slavery, should be celebrated? Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that one, PragerU? You remember when you made the pro-slavery video and everyone shit on you for it?
and the Western world, and most especially America, has spent a lot of time, money, and blood breaking free of its racist past. It's been a rocky...
Despite people like you, when you have massive social justice movements like BLM marching and protesting against the extrajudicial murder of black people in the street, and your responses to make videos about how BLM is a terrorist organization, despite the fact that 93% of BLM or like demonstrations are peaceful, and a significant amount of the ones that do get violent, which are already a fraction of the total amount of demonstrations, are actually made violent by police instigation. When that's your response to that, makes me think, no, you guys aren't the ones working to help destroy racism. You guys are the ones that are helping preserve it.
road for sure, but great progress has been made. Critical race theory...
This guy looks and sounds like conservative thought slime. Any truers in chat? I don't know, I'm just getting thought slime vibes from this dude. Like if thought slime was a conservative.
theory says all this progress is a mirage. Racism never died, never even faded a little bit.
No,
it just hid itself.
No one argues that. No one with even half a brain or any amount of platform argues that racism hasn't even slightly decreased. Of course, and everyone will acknowledge this, of course, racism, things have gotten better, right? Things have gotten significantly better. We don't have full-on, in the law, slavery. Except for when it comes to incarceration, I shit you not. In the Constitution, it says that prisoners you're allowed to enslave people as long as it says a punishment. That's real, by the way. Hold on, chat will be back in a second, okay? Sometimes it dies and comes back. That's real, by the way. I'm not shitting you guys on that one. I'm telling the truth. Like, that's the thing. Yeah, no. Things have gotten better. We don't really have slavery anymore, as it used to be. And, yeah, yeah. Things are a bit better. Doesn't mean it's completely fixed.
Better. Critical race theory, therefore, is not a continuation of the civil rights movement. It is,
Yes,
in
it
fact,
is.
a repudiation of it. To critical
Excuse me?
race theorists, Martin Luther King was both wrong and naive. White Americans can never judge blacks by the content of their character.
I love. It is my favorite thing in the world. It gets me nice. It gets me hot and bothered. It gets all the blood pumping to my cock whenever I hear conservatives try to use Martin Luther King Jr. to make an argument, as though MLK, who was a socialist, by the way, wouldn't be rolling so fast in his grave at the thought of PragerU using him for propaganda, that the kinetic energy of him rolling in his grave could power a laser beam that could blow up a planet like the Death Star. That is the most scummy shit I've ever seen. The fact, by the way, that PragerU is so quick to utilize the reputation of Martin Luther King Jr., which, by the way, has been extremely sanitized. I guarantee most of you that are watching this video, if you're like a new fan or something, probably didn't even know MLK was a socialist. Go look it up. He was a devout socialist and a very strong proponent of the abolishment of capitalism and the implementation of socialism. The idea that these people, for their propaganda, would try to use his reputation that has been extremely sanitized as a way to argue in favor of racism and against anti-racism is phenomenal to me. Fantastic propaganda, extremely effective.
Character, they can only judge them, always unfavorably, consciously or unconsciously, by the color of their skin.
How loaded.
Ironically, not since the Aryan obsession in Germany in the 1930s and 1940s, or South African apartheid in the second half of the 20th century, has the social movement been so obsessed with race.
Wow. Holy shit. Oh my God, what a good point. Holy shit. Oh my God. He's totally right. Analyzing race in our society and how our view of race causes racism to happen and how that hurts society is just like the Nazis wanting to exterminate and genocide a bunch of ethnic minorities and white colonizers in South Africa enslaving black people and forcing them to mine diamonds and then killing them if they try to sneak any out to try to make even a single penny off of their labor during apartheid. Yeah, being anti-racist is just like being a genocidal racist. I never thought of that before. Wow. I guess it's as simple as acknowledging race exists makes you racist. Damn. Amazing. Good Lord. I want to die.
Critical race theory is then, in a very real sense, a counter-American revolution. But that's a positive, not a negative to those who subscribe to the theory. The American experiment was given a 400-year tryout, and it doesn't work. So let's scrap it. That's what they believe. Is that what you believe? I'm going to guess that most of you don't. So how do
Do you think that an overwhelming amount of academic institutions are actually teaching kids that America is done for and that they failed their 400-year trial to like end racism? Or do you think maybe they're just advocating for people to not be racist and for people to maybe introspect a little bit more as to why they might have certain biases that they have, you know? Do you think maybe that could be what's going on? Also, holy shit, I've got a eyelash in my eye. It's making me cringe. I'm cringing pretty hard here, chat. I'm cringing pretty hard. Come on. I almost got it. Oh, there we go. Based.
How do we stop critical race theory before it infects the brains of too many decent Americans, especially young people, and turns us into something we have never been and shouldn't ever want to be? The answer is simple. Refuse to accept it.
Ah, yes.
Don't be intimidated by the heads I win, tails you lose logic of this self-destructive, America-hating, anti-reality idea.
Anti-reality? Ah, yes. Hey, these ideas that are being supported by the academic community. Say no to it. Don't listen to it. They're anti-reality. Come listen to our our overwhelmingly debunked, disgraced propaganda network to listen to outright lies that are easy to debunk if you even do 5 minutes of research on the simplest claim that we make. And don't listen to academia. Academia bad. Yeah, they're the ones that are anti-reality, by the way. Academia bad, knowledge bad. They're the ones that are anti-reality, of course.
Don't be bullied into thinking that you're racist when you know you're not.
Oh.
Or that you're a victim when you know you're not.
Oh.
Defend yourself.
I like that too. You know how I feel like a lot of people over focus perhaps on like the way that this type of propaganda is sort of targeted at usually like young white, kind of edgy, maybe a little bit liberal, maybe a little bit conservative, usually somewhere in the middle, like dude gamer bros. I feel like a lot of people over focus on that, but holy shit, especially in the last few years, a lot more of this content has been made to appeal to those that aren't in that group. More women, more trans people, black people, and so on. This specific slide right here is meant to convince black people that are watching that if someone tries to convince you to acknowledge that racism exists and that there are certain boundaries or certain barriers that may potentially be in your way to achieving what you want to achieve, that acknowledging that means that they're trying to make you feel like a victim. People like Blair White do the same thing with trans people, where they try to convince trans people that stumble across their videos that, you have to be this, this, and this to be trans, and also these people, the other transes, the bad trans people, the bad transgenders, they're holding us down, and we do fucking destroy them. I feel like a lot of people are forgetting how good conservative propaganda has gotten recently at bringing in not just your average, like, white gamer boys, but even, like, minorities.
You're not. Defend yourself while you still can. I'm James Lindsay, founder of New Discourses for Prager University.
Gotta add in that little bit
Thank you for watching this.
That little bit of fear-mongering at the end right there. Who's this guy called?
Defend yourself while you still can. I'm James Lindsay, founder of New Discourses for Prager.
James Lindsay, New Discourses. What is that guy's deal? James Lindsay. Okay, apparently he's a mathematician. James Lindsay, born June 8th, 1979. Boomer, known professionally as James A. Lindsay, is an American mathematician, author, and cultural critic. He is known for his involvement in the grievance studies affair with Peter Boghossian and Helen Pluckrose, the latter with whom he co-authored the nonfiction book Cynical Theories, 2020. I'm curious what drama he's gotten into. Lindsay has named critical social justice, which he describes as his preferred name for the contemporary social justice movement, as his ideological enemy, and is a critic of wokeness, which he what the fuck? He analogizes to religious belief? Jesus Christ, this guy is pulling all the cards. Columnist Kathy Young described Lindsay as an author with a large anti-woke online following in 2020. He announced his intention to vote for Donald Trump in the 2020 U.S. presidential election, citing illiberalism on the left as the reason. Wow. So the guy's just like a conservative? Damn. Woke Utopia, the end of the West and a new cult. Listen, guys. Oh, we got the Rational Wiki page. They always come in clutch. What do we got here? Grievance hoax, studies hoax. Skogel Squared was a stunt conducted by James Lindsay, Helen Pluckrose, and Peter Boghosian, in which they spent months studying and writing in order to create 20 articles filled with false information in fields they believed to be grievance studies. Such fields included gender studies, queer studies, among others. The authors hoped to expose the low standards in these disciplines and willingness to publish bullshit if it compared with their viewers' beliefs. The authors then submitted these articles in various peer-reviewed journals in a relevant field to see if the articles would get published or rejected. The hoax unraveled and had to come to an abrupt end in October 2018 when a Wall Street Journal reporter started noticing some fishy aspects about Helen Wilson, one of the fabricated academics listed as an author on one of the papers. In total, 7 of the submissions were accepted, and 4 of those were published before retraction. 5 more were still under review when the hoax ended, and 9 were rejected outright. One of the more widely... Okay, so it just seems like overall this has been, like, just debunked. Like, they're fucking jokes among the academic community. Guys, I didn't need this article, this, like, page to know that. Let's be honest here. Typically, when you see someone bringing up this much loaded emotional language when they're trying to make a point, you know they're lying. If someone says, defend yourself, or they're attacking you, typically you know they're full of shit. If they're trying to frame it as like an academic, like school educational video, and they're using that type of language, come on. They're lying to you. They're probably lying to you. I'm gonna be honest. They're probably full of shit. Anyway, if you liked this video, please leave a like right now, both on the stream and on the video. Subscribe and ring the bell icon if you're new and you want to see more from me. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok through the links in the description, as well as joining my fan Discord through the link in the description. I really do appreciate that. And if you want to support me financially, you can donate or sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, pledge me on Patreon, or hit the join button, become a channel member on YouTube, or super chat there as well. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.